Hey, how's it going everyone? I hope you're all doing well as usual. So back today with a quick collection update. When I say quick, I'm only showing 3 CDs. I do have a lot more new material, but like I've said before, I'm trying to divide these videos up into categories. In terms of musical genre, just because I know, like sometimes it's good to do a mixed bag, but I think generally speaking, I know some of you like certain genres and others of you don't, so it depends on what particular genre. But today, just to give you some insight, I'm showing what you could, I don't mean to use this in a derogatory sense, but what you could say is it's relatively mainstream metal, but like there's nothing wrong with that. I like a lot of mainstream heavy metal music, but you'll know immediately if this video is for you or not. I know some of you only like the extreme stuff, whereas others prefer just the heavy metal stuff, others like everything. But yeah, all relatively speaking mainstream albums today, but really good ones, I have to say. And if you do like the more extreme stuff, that will be featured in the next collection update, where it will be all black metal, I think. So yeah, that will be in the next video, but this is just a backlog of some releases I picked up recently. So there's yeah, some thrash metal and some 80s metal, you could say, in here. So 3 albums, 2 bands. Let's get started. Okay, so first of all, this was, by the way, at Fortune Plaza, where I often pick up the bargain bin second-hand CDs. So, but at this particular new place, they have ones in really good condition. So, yeah, the first album I picked up was Megadeth with So Far, So Good, So What. So, Megadeth need no introduction to most of you, I'm sure. One of the most legendary metal bands of all time. Started out as a thrash metal band in the 80s, in a purist sense, but then they sort of refined and developed their sound. But yeah, absolutely legendary band. And this actually rounds off my collection of 80s Megadeth albums in original CD formats, which is quite easy to do because they only have 2 other albums in the 80s, Killing Is My Business and Peace Sells. So yeah, this one is So Far, So Good, So What, which came out in 1988, I think. And yeah, I had heard this millions of times before, but I just never happened to own it in original format. And yeah, really pleased to pick it up. Now I will say this, of the 3 80s Megadeth albums, this is my least favorite by default. That's not to say that it's a bad album at all, I just like the other 2 albums more than that. And for the record, my favorite Megadeth album of all time is probably Rust in Peace, which is the one that came after this. But nevertheless, this is a really good album. It's continuing down that track of 80s raw thrash metal, which was featured on the first 2 albums. But yes, maybe like maturing in terms of songwriting, because there are some songs on here which are more sort of atmospheric, and there's other songs where it's almost going in a sort of ballady territory, but not in a derogatory or negative way, like in a good non-cheesy way, like on the song In My Darkest Hour, for example. But yeah, overall a really good album. So everyone probably knows it, but just very quickly. So the album kicks off with Into the Lungs of Hell, which is a fantastic scorching instrumental with a great guitar solo. Now I will say this, just halting there, I much prefer the second half of the album to the first album. Not that the first half of the album is bad, but like songs like Set the World Afire are really showcasing the band's like raw, aggressive thrash metal qualities, which are really cool. Mary Jane is quite atmospheric and dreamy, I like that. And 502 is thrash metal as well. Just the only problem I have, apart from the fucking battery running out, the only problem I have with the first half of this album is the cover of Anarchy in the UK. So obviously a song originally done by the Sex Pistols, and I really like the original version, and even this version, I have to say, is not bad. I'm not saying the cover itself is bad, but for me, just compared to these other songs in the first half of the album, it sounds a bit poppy almost, and a bit out of place. So I think it just, like, with such a well-known cover, it sort of just breaks up the rhythm of the album. Like, I think if it was just all original material, that would be great. But I mean, maybe I'm being a picky bitch, I don't know. But you have to remember as well that in the 80s, most thrash metal bands did at least 1 cover per album. And yeah, this one is certainly not bad, Anarchy in the UK. I mean, I've heard other bands do some god-awful fucking covers, like Beatles songs and stuff like that. Nothing against the Beatles, but just really ridiculous covers. So yeah, that's what I don't like about it, is just the fact that it jams up the rhythm of the first half of the album because it sounds kind of out of place, and then it sort of interrupts the flow. That's how I've always seen this song. So I think Like I said, the cover itself is not bad, but I think they should have perhaps recorded that on a separate single or EP. And I think they actually did release it as a picture disc, like in the shape of the UK, because obviously, yeah. Oh, in this one they say Anarchy for the USA, but yeah, the original Sex Pistols version is referring about to the UK. But and it is like, it's a good like thrash version cover, but that's my only problem with it. It's just a bit out of place and it ruins the rhythm of the album. And it's also funny. Dave messed up some of the lyrics, which he admitted in his autobiography, and I think that was very creative hearing sometimes. Like Johnny Rotten says in the original and other council tenancies, how did he hear and other cunt-like tenancies? Like, I still laugh at that bit, it's so funny. Like, just because it's so horribly wrong. And what's the other bit he messes up? Like, oh yeah, like, I want to be anarchist, get pissed, destroy. Like, that's the original version. Like, you know, British or Australian slang when you say get pissed, meaning get drunk, you know, but in this one he says, again, I'm pissed, like as in I'm angry. But anyway, no big deal, there's just some funny asides for that. But yeah, enough rambling about Anarchy in the UK. But the first half of the album is pretty good, but I think this album really gets going full throttle with the last 3 tracks. Tracks 6, 7 and 8 are undoubtedly my favourites on the album, just absolutely brilliant. Like In My Darkest Hour, it's not really a ballad, but it's sort of like a dark anthemic song, and it starts off slowly, but then it launches into this really fast thrashy bit, and you know, great guitar, like lead guitar solo trade-off with featuring Jeff Young. He was the lead guitarist on this album. So you have Dave Mustaine, David Ellefson, Jeff Young on lead guitar, and Chuck Profus, is it, on drums. He was the guy with the Batman t-shirt in My Darkest Hour. When my friends and I used to always watch that video, someone always said Batman, you know, because he had that design on his shirt. But yeah, In My Darkest Hour is a great song, and it's actually, you know, very dark and poignant. It was, I think Dave wrote that on the day that he heard that Cliff Burton died. And tracks 7 and 8, like Liar, absolutely fantastic, just raw, thrashy, sneering, hateful, like it's just brilliant. Like in that very sort of it very much suited Dave Mustaine's personality, particularly at that time, you know, like a lot of anger and everything, and it's just really good. And I like that bit where he launches into the fast section of rhyming couplets, you know, where it just keeps going, and you know, like steal money, rob cars, blah 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 blah. Yeah, it's just so brilliant, and that awesome solo. So yeah, Liar, fantastic song, and it applies to a lot of people. You know, like if you want a song to listen to when you're pissed off or you're annoyed with someone, yeah, Liar is a good song. And then the album concludes with Hook and Mouth, which I think is just such a brilliant closing track and one of my favorite Megadeth songs of all time, criminally underrated, just so good. Like the main, when it launches, you know, it starts off with just the bass and drums. When it launches into that 80s thrash riff, it sounds just like as good as the main riff in Peace Sells. So I just really love it, and the chorus is so anthemic and easy to sing along to. Yeah, so brilliant album overall. I just think that the second half is better than the first half, with my favorite songs being In My Darkest Hour, Liar and Hook in Mouth. But I also really like Into the Lungs of Hell. So there's the cover, back with picture of the band, and just showing the booklet. Like this is the original version, I think, so pretty bare bones and 80s. Yep, so another picture of the band there. And you can tell this is like an OG press, I think, because it's just that boring disc design there with the Megadeth logo. But yeah, really, really good album. So it's my least favorite of the 80s ones, but all of these albums are good, just by default, because I think Peace Sells and Killing Is My Business are better. But yeah, absolutely great album. So Megadeth with So Far So Good So What. All right, now the next 2 albums are by the same band, and it's interesting. I picked these ones up after listening to you, the viewers, well, some of you who commented. Anyway, the next 2 albums are actually by Skid Row. So here we have Skid Row with Slave to the Grind. So you'll remember a few months back, I picked up the self-titled debut album, and I admitted that Skid Row had been a band which always passed me by, so I didn't really listen to them much. But then I got the debut album, really liked it, and when I showed it in that video, a lot of viewers, people who commented, said you should check out the second and third albums, so Slave to the Grind and Subhuman Race. And lo and behold, when I was in this bargain bin shop, they had those albums, so I picked them up. So this is Slave to the Grind, the band's second album, which came out 91, I think I'm gonna say. Yeah, so basically this is excellent. I just love this album. Like, it took me a little while to get into, when I first heard the second and third albums, I still thought the first one was my favorite. I would say maybe it depends on my mood, but I think this is shaping up to be my favorite Skid Row album that I've heard thus far. Like, it took a little while to grow on me, but it's really good. Basically, it's, you know what to expect with Skid Row, but if you don't, it's just sort of very swaggering, jangly hard rock. So to me, it has a real Guns N' Roses vibe, you know, in terms of the energy. When I say Guns N' Roses, referring specifically to the debut album, Appetite for Destruction, I think it's like they've got that kind of swagger and energy to it. And these songs are just really catchy. The musicianship is flawless. The vocals are excellent. So it's like, yeah, you know, sort of loud, energetic rock and roll, but then they have some introspective parts, some atmospheric parts with clean guitars, and some non-cheesy ballads, which are really good. So I just love this. And you see here on the back, these song titles are fucking unreadable with the font they've used. Sorry, excuse my language, but a reason to swear today. So what I'm going to do is refer to this booklet on the inside to talk about the songs, but essentially, in my opinion, there are no bad songs on this album, so it's a very enjoyable listen from beginning to end. But just talking about some of my favorite songs, probably the opening track, Monkey Business. I like that twangy sort of pedal steel guitar intro, which sounds really good, and then it launches into the song, that like loud, bombastic rock and roll, really good. Sebastian Bach's vocals are fantastic, as always. Slave to the Grind, the title track, is a really good song, very catchy. I also really like Quicksand Jesus, which is the one that's sort of an introspective, atmospheric ballad using the clean guitars and this kind of melancholic melodies, which are really good. What else? Oh, Get the Fuck Out, just a great hard rock. Sorry, I'm not telling you to do that, that's the name of the song. But yeah, just a great hard rock song, very energetic and shouty anthemic chorus, so I just love that. I also really like, Riot Act. That's almost, I won't say thrashy, but there's some chugging heavy riffs in that, which are really good. And yeah, Wasted Time is good, but like I've read about half of the song titles, but honestly they are all good. But I've just mentioned my absolute 6 favorites. So to reiterate my 6 favorites, Monkey Business, Slave to the Grind, Quicksand Jesus, Get the Fuck Out, Riot Act, and Wasted Time, but all really good stuff. So just showing you the booklet here. Yep, so pretty cool artwork with this one. And then all of the lyrics on the inside, but it's good with this style of music. Obviously the vocals are intelligible, so you can actually tell what Sebastian's singing most of the time, so you don't really need the lyric book. And there's the, god damn it, there's the disc, so cool design there. And what I just dropped on the ground, quite stupidly, was this inlay. So this was a Japanese version. So, you know, like I said, in Thailand, like a lot of the secondhand CDs and records you get are imported from Japan. So this is pretty cool. It's just got all of the song titles in Japanese and then English. And I think as they do, they translate, yeah, all of the lyrics into Japanese. So, which is obviously useless to me, but just cool to have this kind of like a collector's item, I suppose. And, oh God, I hate that. You're kidding. Okay, no, I think I got it. Cool, I was worried it was like origami, I was going to mess that up there. But yes. So yeah, if you like 80s, you know, I know hair metal's kind of like a derogatory term, but it is useful to use, you know, with that kind of Sunset Strip LA sound, even though this band is from New Jersey and Sebastian Bach's Canadian, but you know, like the Sunset Strip sound was more about the style of music of these bands. So if you like that kind of stuff, you'll really enjoy this, especially if you like Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. Like obviously the vocals are very different to Axl's, but just that energetic swagger in the music, it's very similar to Guns N' Roses. So great album, and probably my favorite Skid Row one at the moment. This is Skid Row with Slave to the Grind. And I'll mess with this booklet later. And finally, the last CD for the day, upon people's recommendation, I also picked up Subhuman Race by Skid Row. So this is the band's 3rd album, which came out in 1995, I think. So as you can imagine, you know, by that time grunge music had become flavor of the month, so a lot of heavy metal bands and hair metal bands had to sort of reinvent their sound or refine it. But yeah, reinvent or refine it. But what's interesting about this is the band did do that, but in a very original way. Like if you look back on a lot of those hair metal albums, bands from the 80s, you know, like a lot of them, when they tried to do this grunge sound, most of them emulated Alice in Chains. And you know, that's cool because I like Alice in Chains, but that was the go-to band, maybe because they were the most metallic of the grunge bands. I don't know, like Kiss did a very sort of Alice in Chains-esque album with Carnival of Souls, and so did Dokken with Dysfunctional, to a degree. But what I like about this album is they're not trying to copy or emulate Alice in Chains, and they're not really trying to sound too grungy. This album kind of defies classification to me, description. It's kind of, how would I describe it? If I had to give it a label, and we don't always have to, I would say this is just 90s metal. Like, it doesn't even sound like it's trying to be grungy. It's not exactly groove metal. It's just heavy metal, but with a very fresh 90s sound. So you can definitely tell it was the 90s when this came out, which is good because the band was just going with the times, but reinventing their sound in an original way. So, yeah, it's cool, and I do enjoy this one. I will just say though, compared to the first two albums by Skid Row, by default, this is my least favorite of the first three. Not to say that it's bad. The issue that I have with this album is just, while it sounds good, there are not a lot of standout tracks to me. But like, maybe I'm still getting into it, and maybe it will grow on me. What's the song? Yeah, there are some songs that do stand out though. Like, I really like Bonehead, which is track 3. Also, Eileen, track 5 is a great song. And probably my favorite track is track 12, Breaking Down, which is kind of like a melancholic power ballad. Again, not cheesy, but just like very atmospheric and emotional. So really like that. So this is quite a long album. That's the other thing. It's like 13 songs or something. But yeah, nothing bad on it. Just not as many standout tracks to me. But there you go. There's the cover. And just show you the inside here. There's the disc. Quite plain, and this artwork. And what have we got here? Actually, this is the first time I've opened this. Yeah, because I don't really concentrate on the lyrics and the booklet, just the music, but just show you kind of like this fold out booklet. Yeah, so showing members of the band and the lyrics. Yeah. And also, once again, this is a Japanese version, so it comes with the same kind of booklet, so all the song titles in English translated to Japanese, and yeah. Yeah, again, the lyrics translated to Japanese as well. Oh, did I really do that? Did I try and open one? Oh, no, good, got it. Okay, yeah, so like I said, it's by default my least favorite of the first 3 albums, but it's still very good and it's original. So it's a band reinventing their sound to sound fresh for the 90s, but without sounding typically grungy or not trying to just copy Alice in Chains. So an interesting listen, and I don't mean this in a derogatory sense, but it's really good background music. Like if I'm cleaning the house or busy doing something, it's a good album to have on in the background. But yeah, just not so many standout tracks to me yet, but maybe it will grow on me. But for now, my 3 favorite tracks are Bonehead, Eileen, and Breaking Down. But good album. So that's Skid Row with Subhuman Race. All right, and that's it for today, guys. This video actually went on a little longer than I expected, probably because I repeated myself a bit. Sorry about that. But yes, I will be back again soon. The next video will also be a collection update, and it will be all black metal. So if that's your thing, yeah, that's coming up next, and that will probably be within the next week. So thanks as always for your support of the channel and for watching. And I've noticed lately I've had a couple of new subscribers, like 2 or 3. So thanks very much, guys, and welcome. Hope you continue to watch. And as always, let me know what you thought of the video and these albums in the comments. Okay, so I'll let you go there, but catch you soon. See you later. Cheers. Bye.